From a young age, we are taught that being a good woman, a good girl, whatever that is, means being selfless. We focus on productivity. We focus on being thin and skinny. We focus on how we can take care of others, and we are rewarded for that. Rest is almost questioned.
Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, the podcast where we debunk the eat less, move more, shrink more mentality and focus on what really matters, which includes your relationship with your body, food, self-worth, and the behaviors that align with all of those. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, licensed therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. At the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, we believe what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. So let's have a conversation about that. Before we get into today's episode, I want to make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, if you don't want to miss any content that's being dropped, make sure you hit that notification bell as well. I also want to know who are the people you want to hear from on this show and what topics would you like me to continue to cover. Thank you so much for your continued support. Now, let's get into the episode.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. I am so excited to have you here, and I hope you're excited to be here. Today, we are talking about your energy budget and stop overspending your body's capacity. This is something that doesn't get nearly enough attention, this idea of energy budget. And actually, I was on the Mindset of Menopause group coaching call, and my client Kelly, shout out to Kelly, reminded me of this theory, this thing that I had learned a long time ago. And I thought, you know what, let's create a whole podcast on this because it needs its own thing. If you're new to this podcast, welcome. I hope that you enjoy this information and I hope you learn something about yourself that you can take away today. And if you like this or love this podcast, I would love for you to give us a follow if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, or if you're watching me on YouTube. Of course, like I had already mentioned, please subscribe to this channel. It helps me get the word out to more people. Also, I like to talk about myself, popular culture, current events for the first part of my podcast. And so if you don't want to hear any of that, you can actually check the show notes to when we're going to start talking about your energy budget. You know what is something that I have not even talked about on this podcast, and I'm like way late? Taylor Swift's getting married. And let me tell you, I knew where I was on 9/11. Sad, right? I knew where I was that day. I also know where I was when I saw that Taylor Swift was engaged. And it just made me so happy for her. And I think it's a lesson for so many women out there. Now, obviously, she's beautiful, she's talented, she's very successful. And from her interviews, she seems pretty down to earth. She will visit children in the hospital. She has given money to her team, like the truck drivers. She's very giving, and obviously has had a lot of relationships we've been watching this girl since she was like 16, right? And never settled, right? Never settled, and was looking for that person who grounded her, who, was the yin to her yang. And when it first started, the whole Travis Kelce thing, we're kind of like, what? Is this real? Is this real? It's real. And it just makes me so happy because she is creating a definition of a new era of women who hopefully are not settling, who know their worth and would rather, they're so confident in themselves that they would rather be single than be in a toxic relationship. And I hold this to be true because we women, us millennials and those before us, have paved the way for women. Now, I guess technically she's a millennial because she's only like 6 years younger than me. So we're paving the way and saying it is okay to get married later. I didn't get married till 34. It is okay to be single. It is okay to not worry about either of those things and be living your best damn life. And I just think that's so important. And know that with time and with confidence in building a relationship with yourself, the other things will fall into place. And healing is a part of that too. Being able to heal your own relational struggles. I went through that process and being able to come out on the other side. And I just think that it is so exciting for her. I love hearing all the updates. There's also some speculation that she's going to be performing at the Super Bowl. Fingers crossed. Now, some of you are like, I absolutely hate Taylor Swift. That is fine. I personally love her. I wouldn't consider myself a Swiftie, but I absolutely love her music. And I'm so excited for her new album because the producers on this album literally produced every song that I love of hers. I'm kind of like the more pop focused Taylor Swift and like the folk country, like what was it? The writers, I forgot what the title of her last album was, but it's like very creative and kind of moody, right? I like that, but I love the other stuff. Like, you know, when Mark and I were dating, 1989 came out. And so it reminds me so much of our relationship, and all the songs are so amazing. So I haven't talked about that with you guys. So I'm still playing catch up, right? But I see it just more than what it is. And I think it's absolutely wonderful. And I just cannot wait for that wedding. Hopefully, during that time, I am roaring and ready to go because I'm going to need all of the energy to watch all of the TikToks and look at all of the Instagrams. And that is our conversation today. Brilliant segue. Another one. Today, we're talking about something, like I said, doesn't get a lot of attention, and that's this idea of energy balance. We track things like money, we track things like time, we track food, right? Calories. But when it comes to our energy, most women act like they have an unlimited balance. And in our 20s, early 30s, we kind of do, right? We kind of do. But eventually, our bodies start sending us overdraft fees. And those come in the form of things like just complete burnout, right? Complete fatigue, terrible cravings, or just a mental breakdown, right? And the truth is that burnout isn't about, you having a lack of willpower. And for some people, like they'll think something's wrong with me, right? It's my hormones, it's my this, it's my that. Yes, can that contribute to it? Sure. But as I continue to educate myself, I have a second version of the menopause certification that I'm completing now. And what was interesting about that is as our hormones change, what was believed to be true is that our cortisol increased as our estrogen decreased, which actually, if we look at the research from this certification that I'm doing, that's not necessarily true. A lot of the stress that we feel as we age is actually what we call like biocycle social, right? It's out in it's in our biology, obviously, and just having these changes in our body can cause us stress. It's in our psychology, right? And how stress messes with our heads. And it's socially, right? Changes that we're going through. And what I want to talk about today is, again, it's not willpower. It's not a lack of willpower. It's not a lack of motivation. It's not a medical issue. It's sometimes it's not even hormonal. It is most times than not about overspending what we're going to call your energy budget today. So it's not a character flaw, is what I'm saying. It's kind of just basic fucking math, right? Every single day we wake up with a balance. And if you're someone who has an aura ring, you know how that balance changes because it'll tell you your readiness score, right? Some days it's higher, some days it's drained. And for the women that listen to this podcast, you're women who are go-getters. A lot of you are executives, you are in high-level positions, whether that's in law, medicine, corporate America, whatever that looks like, right? And what I know from a lot of you, you are masters at ignoring your reality. You will force yourself to spend energy that you quite literally don't have and then blame yourself and your body or mind because it can't keep up with you, right? And you'll do things and drink things and eat things and take things to try to make up for it. And that is like double dipping on this shit. And so let's talk about why we as women do this in the first place. Like, why do women chronically overspend their energy? Obviously, something I talk about here a lot is conditioning. From a young age, we are taught that being a good woman, a good girl, whatever that is, means being selfless. We are selfless, we're accommodating, we are tireless, right? We focus on productivity, we focus on being thin and skinny, we focus on how we can take care of others, and we are rewarded for that. Rest is almost questioned. Why are you sitting on the couch? Shouldn't you be doing something else? Or just those passive comments like, oh, this isn't done correctly. Can you do it again? Right? Why are you reading? Why is your nose always in a book? Shouldn't you be da da da? Right? And we learn or we watch our own mothers never sit down that in order to be good enough or womanly enough, we've got to keep going, right? In society, in culture, social media, and let's even talk about just like TV shows with your, 90s mom on it, right? Convinces us that every woman should be doing the most, right? But currently in social media, there is this wave of women crushing their careers, parenting perfectly. Think of these like trad wives, right? They should be meal prepping, running marathons, and obviously looking amazing while doing all of it. And people show that, they show that on their reels, their carousels, this new thing of like, come with me as a executive, and they're like doing 17 things before they even like get in their car to drive to work. And you're like, I can barely get up and take a shower and feed myself something. How the fuck am I supposed to do that? And you feel this need to be better, right? Because they can do it all. So, like, why can't you do it all? And you think maybe I'm lazy, right? When you don't measure up against these highlight reels, or again, there's something wrong with me. And it's, as someone who does social media, I can't tell you how many takes things take. That reel, that thing that they're creating probably took them hours to create. Hours, right? So not only do they do this 17-step process to get their ass up and running, they also have to spend hours on putting this content together. And why does it take hours? Because they're trying to make it look perfect. Hey, there it is. The other thing, obviously, is, as we're watching our mothers, as we watch social media, we oftentimes take on this identity that our worth is how we pour into everyone else. How do we pour into our kids, our partners, our work, and our communities, our parents, maybe, right? And we only give ourselves scraps. We only give ourselves leftovers. And by the time we get to ourselves, our own health is kind of in the dumps. So not only have we not been giving to ourselves, in our brains, we have this barrier that I come last, but we wait so long to do it that we have to dig ourselves out of this health dumpster that we're in. And that can be incredibly frustrating because again, you are completely spent. But on top of that, a lot of women who are in executive high level positions, they equate worth with output. They equate worth not only with output, but the quality of that output. So they strive for things like perfectionism. And if they aren't constantly doing more and doing it perfect, they feel like they're falling behind. And that can cause a lot of issues with mental health. I'm falling behind. I'm not good enough. They shame themselves. They shit on themselves. They talk poorly to themselves. And all of this, all of those things are rooted in this fear of judgment, this fear of being seen as wrong or not good or not helpful. Saying no and setting boundaries and choosing yourself feels risky. If we're talking about this money, right? Feels like a risky investment for you. And you worry you'll disappoint others, you'll be misunderstood, you'll be labeled in a very negative way, and that is too much risk for you. So, what happens? You overspend, right? Overspending becomes not just a habit, it becomes your identity. And that's why so many women confuse exhaustion with being normal, right? We think feeling this way, feeling spent, is normal because we've never been taught another way. But guess the what? We're doing it today. We're doing it today. And we are doing it with the spoon theory. The spoon theory, the energy budget. So, I, in my notes, did not give this justice. So, give me 1 second because I'm going to look this up for you. Okay. So, the spoon theory is a metaphor that helps explain what it's like to live with a chronic illness, fatigue, pain, or even mental health struggles. Basically, any condition that limits a person's energy. It was created by Christine Mizrandino, hopefully I said that right, who at the time had lupus. She was trying to describe to a friend how she manages her day with lupus. So they were at a kitchen table, or I believe they were at a restaurant, and she grabbed all of the spoons, the place settings that were on the table. And she said, here's the gist. Each spoon equals a unit of energy. Each spoon represents the limited amount of energy someone has for a day. Healthy people start with an unlimited amount of spoons. And when I'm saying healthy, I'm not just like the fittest, no. I'm talking about people who have balance. They have balance in their relationships, they have balance in their relationship with self, they have balance in their nutrition, their exercise, their rest, their mental health, their physical health, right? So they start with all of the spoons, right? But people who are going through biopsychosocial stress, physical stress, changes in their bodies, they start with fewer spoons, right? Things that others might take for granted, like literally some of my clients, it's like showering, right? Cooking meals, being able to get a 10-minute, 15-minute workout in. Each of those begin to cost a spoon. And if you run out of spoons, you're done. You're done for the day, right? Sometimes you can borrow from tomorrow by pushing through a little bit, but you'll have to pay for it later with more fatigue or more symptoms. So it's about the spoon theory is about a trade-off, right? Someone may have to choose between showering and sleeping. I see this a lot with the surgeons that I work with, right? Or cooking dinner and going out with friends. So the spoon theory, right? Genius. And again, it's so silly because it's spoons and you're like, how does this doesn't really make like in your brain, you're like, what are the spoons? It just happened to be how this woman was teaching her friend how it is to live with lupus. And so for you, some days you wake up, you have 20 spoons, right? Some days you wake up, you have 5 spoons. And once they're gone, like I said, they are gone. But here's the thing, most of us are spending our spoons, right? We're spending them in a currency that we don't have by dipping into that energy debt, right? Now we're in the red. We push through, like I said, with things like caffeine. We push through with willpower, guilt, even self-criticism is like, you got to keep going. And mentally, what happens is that debt starts adding up. And these are the first signs that you are working from your energy debt. You are anxious, baby, because you're always running behind. You're just constantly feeling like you're freaking drowning. Believe me, Lord knows I have been there. You are more irritable because you're stretched beyond your capacity. When you're stretched that thin, you don't have the emotional boundaries to calm your ass down. And speaking of that, you, if this is your vice, may emotionally eat at that time because food becomes like a quick loan, right? Quick loan for your body. Your body is begging for that loan. It's like, please, please, please. But also other things can take place of food, right? You could shop, you could drink alcohol, you could do other things, right? But also what happens here, especially when we're not realizing it, is we shame ourselves. We say something is wrong with me because we think that feeling this way and needing rest is some sort of like sign of like weakness. And if we've put our identity into those things that I had talked about, we're not working from who we are when we know that's not true. But in our distorted minds, our identity is in perfectionism and pushing through and all of that. And so if we're not acting from that place, then as we know what shame is I am wrong, right? And we're going to continue. I want you to come back to this idea that this is not weakness. This is not wronging or shame. It is math, right? You are trying to go to that restaurant, swiping a card. They ain't got no money on it, baby. and you feel like shit. You know when that happens at the store, you're like, oh my God, do I have enough money in my account? And you're like, yes, I have enough money in my account. Ah, and then you're like, over justify it, right? And you're like, oh, no, try it again. Try it again. I have a lot of money on that card. Like you're doing that, but with your body, right? So let's talk about what that looks like when we're talking about like withdrawals versus deposits, okay? So think of your day like a bank account. So deposits look like getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, eating protein-rich meals, meals with a good amount of fiber in them, foods, whole foods. Make it simple. Eating whole foods, drinking water, right? Connecting with people. This is one that's hard. I know for me it is difficult, but good thing for me is I love my job and I love connecting with you guys each day when I'm talking to my clients. So I do get that sense of connection because what I do is just so beyond like, macros and exercise. Like we're very vulnerable and very connected. So, but because I work from home and work out at home, I've talked to you guys about trying to do like some workout classes so I could connect with people, right? Another way to deposit is movement that restores you. Doesn't deplenish because y'all in this energy debt are like, let me go to a 2.5 hour hit class today. That will give me, no, it's not going to give you energy, right? And, just figuring out how to add to your spoons or obviously your energy balance. So other things here might be meditation, reading, getting outside, playing with your dog, whatever that looks like. Withdrawals, on the other hand, are things like stress at work, right? While for a lot of you, stress at work is your norm, we still have to consider it as a withdrawal. Doing things, like I said, the 2.5 hour hit class or doing endless amounts of cardio, not prioritizing our sleep. A couple weeks ago, I talked about why that is so important. Caretaking without boundaries, even when my poor father was home and I wanted to see him as much as I could, I still had boundaries around it. Because when I was there with him, I wanted to be there and present. And I was able to say, these are the days I can come. It wasn't every day. I wanted everything wanted to be there every day, but I couldn't. And having boundaries is so important, but we have withdrawal, we create withdrawals in our energy account by saying yes when we really should be saying no, right? And the problem is most women minimize the importance of the deposits while ignoring how big those withdrawals are in their lives. When you do that day over day, week over week, month over month, your account runs dry, physically dry, mentally dry, and emotionally dry. And you end up feeling like absolute shit. You feel like shit. And through that entire process, you are in a state of collapse. You're speaking negatively to yourself. You're trying to push yourself beyond any sort of capacity that you should be pushing yourself. And you just are like, it's like you're spinning your wheels, but spinning the wheels of a car that like yells and screams at you, right? So let's talk about what that looks like. So overspending, right? It really is a human thing. Our bodies are designed with these feedback loops to say, hey, I'm not really doing so hot here, babe. So could you give me something? Can you help me out? Right. And so physically, that looks like fatigue. Fatigue, if you are just like, I am so tired, I can't keep my eyes open, right? That is a good sign that we are overdoing it in some capacity. If you're someone who's in a weight loss phase, your weight will stall. Our bodies are not getting rid of that weight. It's not in a healthy place or a safe place to do that. You might feel really, really sore after your workouts. You might feel like, God, I'm just not recovering as well. Your sleep, like I said, you may have trouble falling asleep, but feel very tired, but not be able to go to sleep. Or you might wake up in the middle of the night and be wide awake. The other thing to pay attention to is, are you getting sick more often, right? Because we are burning ourselves out. So our immune system is not functioning the way that it should. And so physically, we want to pay attention to those things. Mentally, we want to look at, do we have a shorter fuse? Like I talked about, are we more irritable? Do we have more brain fog? Ugh, right? And of course, in perimenopause and things like that, these are symptoms that we see. And yes, changes in estrogen can affect our neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. However, a lot of what we experience mentally can be resolved if we would just give back to ourselves through the lifestyle changes that we talked about, right? Racing thoughts, of course, and that's a big sign. And for a lot of us, those racing thoughts feel so normal, right? Because they're there all the time, but they're there all the time because you're not taking care of yourself. And like I said, anxiety, right? Anxiety before your workouts. I had a girl ask, why do I cry during my Bulgarian split squats? And there's a lot of reasons for that, but she has a lot of anxiety during her workouts. Even like anxiety during things that you used to thrive in, like meetings, right? You might be head salesperson at your company, but now you're having like anxiety for meetings. And then emotionally, of course, guilt for resting, right? Guilt for feeling the way you feel. You might have an increase in food noise, right? Because your body is just wanting to feel something. It wants to have that quick deposit. So it's like food, right? Might have this compulsion to want to like be successful at something. So you might like start some random ass project that you have no reason to start or need to start, but you're like, I just need to like get a win, right? A quick compulsive win. And you can begin tying your worth to how much you're doing, right? You start to feel like not enoughness because you are, you know, not doing enough, or you get those hits of pride or confidence by like again, accomplishment. So the emotional side can look like trying to do more, having these urges to do things to get a win. When really what we need to be doing is listening to our nervous system, being like, hey, you're out of money. We got no more spoons here, girlfriend, right? We need to listen to that. So, one of the main things we want to do to be able to handle this is reframe what productivity is for you, right? It is not about squeezing as much as you can into the day. You and I know when you do that, you leave the day feeling absolutely exhausted. Most of the things you did, you probably didn't do the way you could have done them if you would have given yourself time. And you're probably rushed, which makes you even more flustered, right? What we want to do is align our energy with what matters in the day. Okay. I've talked about the Eisenhower matrix, and basically what it is four quadrants. In quadrant one, we're focusing first and foremost on what is urgent and important. So that's probably the things that matter. So just an example, if you wake up with 10 spoons, right? You don't need to apologize because you don't have 20 spoons. You don't even need to be like, oh my gosh, I wish, remember that other day I had 20 spoons. We don't need to do any of that. You need to decide, where do these 10 spoons actually make the most impact? Now, of course, if there are things that are urgent and important quadrant, we want to do them, right? Then we might look at what is important but not urgent and plan that. Okay. Then we're going to look at what is urgent but not important, and we're going to delegate that to somebody else. And if this shit ain't urgent or important, you ain't doing it, right? What is going to make the most impact? When we're really being productive, we are not saying yes to everything. You watch a man do this. They're not saying yes to everything. They're ensuring that by 3 p.m., they're on the motherfucking golf course, right? It's about protecting your deposits. It's not about saying yes to everything. We're protecting our deposits so your withdrawals don't bankrupt you. It's not the other way around. So, dun, 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 how do we do this, right? How do we build a healthier energy budget, or like a more like a nest egg of energy budget, right? We want to stop overspending, of course, and start just kind of knowing where your starting balance is. Like each morning, ask yourself, like, how many spoons do I have today? Did I sleep okay? Was I up all night thinking about something? Again, recognizing some days you'll have more and some days you'll have less, and that is a-okay. Then you're going to audit yourself, audit the biggest withdrawals first. What's costing you the most energy? Is it work stress? Is it poor sleep? Is it punishing workouts or working out too much? Or is it your lack of boundaries and saying yes to everything? What is costing you the most? Then we're going to protect your deposits. We're going to focus on, okay, what is costing me the most here? Say it is saying yes to everything. Okay, how do I protect my deposit? Well, I could probably start to set some boundaries, right? I've talked about boundaries many, many times. I will repeat it again. The easiest template to set boundaries is to ask yourself this. Am I saying yes to something that someone did not ask me directly with their mouth, with their words? Am I saying yes to something for something that someone can do on their own? Am I saying yes to something when I know I'm going to feel negatively afterwards, which includes feeling rushed? Am I saying yes to something when I'm expecting something in return, which includes love and acceptance, right? If if you're saying yes to any of those, even just one, then you're going to say no to the thing, right? So we're protecting our deposits. We're going to protect other things like I've talked about before. We're protecting sleep, we're protecting hydration, we're protecting eating whole foods, we're protecting working out, but finding that balance of strength days, walking, rest days, right? And we're going to create almost these direct deposits, if you will. God, just on a roll here. Direct deposits into your account, right? And then we want to just spend with intention, right? We're not just, out here like making it rain. If you've got 10 spoons, spend them on three things that matter most today, not 10 things that don't matter. Three things that matter the most today. I cannot tell you how helpful this was when I was in the depths of grief. Three things that matter. And lastly, we want to protect your overdraft, right? Get that overdraft fee protection. That includes, again, boundaries, of course, recognizing that sometimes the best decision for you is just to leave that shit for tomorrow. Just leave it for tomorrow. It's going to be okay. As long as it's not in our urgent or important list. I'm not trying to get you guys fired. So mentally, I just want to take this a little bit deeper because, that's what I do. Many women believe, again, that their worths come from their output. If they aren't producing, that they're failing. But again, when you're overspending your spoons, we don't look like a superhero. We look like we're running on fumes. I've seen you guys running on fumes, and you're like, it's fine, right? The irony of that is the more you overspend, the less effective you actually become. I cannot say this to you guys enough. Protecting your energy will help you be the leader that you actually want to be. It's saying, I'm not going to destroy myself to prove anything or keep up with anyone else. Sorry, again, men do it. So it can't be that hard. Have you ever heard that TikTok? Men do it. So it can't be that hard. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to stop running our life in this overdrafted fee energy account. We're going to budget our energy like money or spoons. We're going to learn how many spoons we've got. We're going to spend them wisely. We're going to stop blaming ourselves for being freaking human. We're going to stop glorifying exhaustion. And we're finally going to start investing in habits that actually give us a freaking return on our investment. So tomorrow, instead of you waking up and be like, what's my to-do list? Ask yourself, sorry, you guys, you're probably like, stop with the sound effects, my ears, my bad. I'm getting really passionate about this. Where was I? Ask yourself, how many spoons do I have and where do I want to spend them? Okay, girlfriends, we got that. If this resonated with you, share it with someone you know who is running on empty. Let's normalize this shit for each other, ladies. We want to normalize budgeting that energy the same way we budget everything else. Please share if you haven't already. I would love a 5-star rating and review. I'm going to tell you guys a little something if you're still here. I was looking at the metrics, and since May, we've had more followers, but the engagement has been lower. So, like, let's kick it up some. Let's get some reviews. Let's make sure we're listening all the way through, maybe even download, save, all of those things. That is the easiest way to support me. And I would love that so much because, again, this podcast, yes, complimentary to my business. It's something that I do out of the goodness of my heart. So if you guys would do the same, I would love a review or whatever sort of engagement you can give. Other than that, I want to remind you of something that is so powerful that will absolutely be a deposit in your energy bank. And that is remembering that what you say in the mind, you see in the mirror. Bye-bye.